everybody, welcome to the Alaska Wildlife Conservation Center. We're out here and there's no one else around getting ready for our moose encounter. I'm a good distance away even from my friend recording this, so I'm going to take off my face mask so that you can hear me a little bit better. And welcome again. It looks like our moose is already ready to go for our encounter, so we're going to head on over there and take a look at what goes into getting ready for our summer moose encounters. You can see by looking around today, it's a nice rainy day, which is great considering that we're in the Pacific Northwest rainforest, so we get a lot of precipitation here. You're really seeing what it looks like in Portage, and it is a beautiful rainy day. You can also get a look at some of our ghost trees, which have been standing dead in this area since the 1964 earthquake. Well, now we're gonna head into kind of an off-exhibit prep area for our moose encounter. Come on. We start with some hand sanitizer. Hi, Arnold. This is Arnold. One of his favorite treats in the summertime is fireweed, and he will eat just about every part of this plant. This plant likes to grow in areas that have recently been burned, in areas where they won't be covered by other large trees that are growing. In the summertime, they get covered in these beautiful pink flowers, and they're kind of a sweet treat for our moose this time of the year. So it's one of the foods that we might feed to him during a moose encounter. A lot of the animals that we have living with us here, including Arnold, came to us because they were orphaned or injured and therefore not eligible for a life in the wild because they're not likely to be successful. And so they have permanent homes here. Arnold came to us 2 summers ago in 2018 as a baby moose calf, and he has grown a lot since then. Unfortunately, Arnold's mom was hit by a car, and so since she wasn't around to raise him, he needed a little extra help. When moose are really little and they first come into our care, they get started on a diet of a bottle every 4 hours. And yes, I mean every 4 hours, including through the middle of the night. So our animal care staff really has their hands full when we get a new orphan. The reason they eat so much is because they grow so fast. You can imagine if this guy was just a baby 2 years ago, look at how big he is now. When moose calves are born, they might weigh as little as 25 pounds. And at the end of their first year, they can weigh over 600 pounds. Can you imagine? That means that in some days they're gaining almost 2 pounds. And I mean, I remember being a teenager and having those growing pains. I can only imagine for a moose. So at 2 years old, he might still... Hi, train! At 2 years old... We'll give the train a moment to pass. At 2 years old, oh my goodness. At 2 years old, he might still grow a little bit, but he's getting pretty close to full grown. Moose have an expected lifespan of about 10 years. They're not a particularly long-lived animal, which might be why they grow up so fast. And now that he's an adult moose, you can take a look at his antlers that he grows. These antlers grow and shed every year. Yes, these gigantic ornaments on his noggin will fall off after the rut season is over. And then they start regrowing, first as little nubs until they grow into these beautiful, magnificent antlers. And right now you can still see how parts of them are covered in a fuzzy skin. That fuzzy skin is called velvet. And that velvet is full of nerves and little blood vessels that have just been pumping nutrients into these antlers so that they can grow. Because in some days they might grow more than an inch. And once those antlers are fully grown, that living tissue kind of separates from the central circulatory system, and they're left with just dead skin that will rub off. And so it's probably a little bit itchy for them because once they start to shed that velvet, they'll rub it on anything they can to try and get it off. And then they're left with those bony white antlers that you might be more used to seeing in pictures of moose. Let's get them some more treats. Once that velvet sheds, it signals another important part of the moose life cycle. It signals that rut has begun. And rut is also the mating season. And so they start to get a little moody during the rut. And you might be able to tell when you took a close look at his antlers that there are some spots, like over here, that are already starting to peel, which means that the rut season is almost here for Arnold. And once that starts, our moose encounters stop. So if you're interested in visiting AWCC to have an opportunity like this to feed a moose, you might make plans to come visit us next summer. During a moose encounter, guests come over here and everybody will get 3 twigs. And that might be fireweed. More often, it's gonna look like these right here, which are willow. And willow is another one of Arnold's favorite foods. Check it out. Yum, yum, yum. And that's because moose are browsers. What is a browser? Well, a browser is an animal that eats leafy greens that are up a little higher. So if you compare that to an animal that you might be more familiar with, like a grazer, like a cow, for example, or our bison, they eat things that are growing low on the ground like grasses. But Arnold, he likes leafy greens that are up high, which makes sense because look at how tall he is and how relatively short his neck is. It's kind of hard for him to reach things growing low on the ground. And so he'll eat leafy greens growing up in trees. When you give him a piece of browse, you let go just as soon as he takes it because he's really strong. And then he enjoys that piece and is ready for the next. Well, I'm just about out of browse. I've got a few more pieces here. Let's see. A few more pieces of willow and a few more pieces of fireweed, which means that our moose encounter for today is almost done. We'll give these to him, and then as a nice treat, we'll throw in a big branch for him to enjoy as a thank you to encountering with us today. Some more fireweed for him, his favorite. Well, thank you all for joining us for this moose encounter program. I hope that you've enjoyed getting to meet Arnold. It looks like he sees something over in his pond that he's more interested in than us right now. Some ducks, maybe. But I hope to see you all come and visit us someday in the future and have a meet and greet with Arnold like I'm doing today. See y'all later.